Instead, he is a non-person in the West. And this tells you what we are dealing with. We are dealing with the #1 privileged state on earth.
Counter to the Israeli argument that the whole world is against us, it is exactly the opposite. We started the nuclear race in the Middle East. There's no doubt about it. You see? And there is not even one important state in the Western Hemisphere who is dealing with it seriously.
You can talk all you want. We can sit here till tomorrow morning and discuss Israel's nuclear policy. We can discuss whatever we want. It's the people who work in those areas, in the weapons of mass destruction, the environment, Dimona itself, all these research places. Vanunu is a living warning to them. This is what will happen to you if you speak out. You'll be Vanunized. That's the warning. You will spend 10 years in solitary confinement. You will be cut off from your family. You will be cut off from everyone who knows you. You will be this prisoner without a number and without a name. That's what will happen to you if you speak out.
It's the prison on the phone.
Oh, what did? Oh, how marvelous. What time? Well, if we come at 11, can we have an hour and a half? Okay, thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye.
On their last day, the Elofs get their visit. After an hour and a half, they emerge with a message.
It's just wonderful. We're so excited we don't know what to think because he's... Oh, yeah, you talk.
It was a marvelous experience. It's the first time we've ever seen him so high and just anxious to talk about what's going on in his life and what he's looking forward to, especially the anticipation of getting out. He's just strong. That was his final word. Let him know that I'm strong and anxious to get out of here and out of Israel and just start a life all over again.
Yeah.
He was just beaming, I must say.
And he said the message to the world is that I have forgotten the last 16 years. I'm looking toward the future. I believe in a future of nonviolence.
So did he say he'd do it all again?
You know he did. He said, of course I would. Isn't that incredible?
The Elofs have gone and Vanunu is again up for parole. But as usual, everything, even the location of the parole hearing, is secret. Apart from me and Peter Hounham, who's come from London, there are no other journalists here.
Mordecai Vanunu is in there? Mordecai Vanunu in there? Is that where the case is being held?
He is the most sensitive prisoner that this country's got, and whenever he comes here, they block off the windows of his van if they can, or they... In the early days, they used to put a crash helmet over him so people couldn't see him. And at one point, they even had an electronic device that emitted a screeching signal so people couldn't hear him speak.
And yet, you and I are the only journalists here, the most sensitive prisoner Israel's got, and there's not a single member of the press here apart from you. Why do you keep coming?
I keep coming because he's in there because he spoke to me and we published his story in the Sunday Times in 1986, and I feel a sense of responsibility that we should be helping him get out.
3 hours later, the hearing ended. As usual, Vanunu left behind darkened windows. In court, Horev's prosecutor had cited the war with Iraq as a new reason for blocking parole.
The prosecutor, of course, went back to the old argument that Vanunu is a threat to the security, and she even said that if Vanunu will be released, probably the Americans will leave Iraq and go after Israel and Israel nuclear weapons, which I found extremely ridiculous.
Minnesota, the Peace Bridge and a weekly ritual. Every Wednesday, hundreds protest against the war.
Say no to war in Iraq.
Mary's there, so of course is Nick. Every week the numbers grow. There's a new generation of peaceniks who were children when Israel's nuclear weapons were exposed. Have any of you guys heard of Mordecai Vanunu?
No.
You don't know who he is?
No.
And if I tell you that he's somebody who exposed Israel's weapons of mass destruction, which nobody knew about until then, what would you say?
Why is our media that's supposed to be free and open not telling us? And why is our government not letting us know this information if we're living in the home of the free?
I think if our administration was consistent or had any integrity, then he'd be held up as a hero.
We're going to work with the members of the Security Council in the days ahead to make it clear to Saddam that the demands of the world and the United Nations will be enforced.
In Washington, which gives Israel more than $3 billion a year, the talk is only of Iraq. For weeks we've tried to get an interview about Israel's weapons of mass destruction, but no one in this Bush administration wants to talk about Israel. So we've asked for an interview about the military balance of power in the Middle East, and now they've agreed.
This morning, we've finally been told that we're going to have an interviewee. He's an expert in all matters Israeli. He's an Undersecretary of Defense, and his name is Douglas Feith.
The Pentagon has demanded a list of questions in advance. So it's the balance of power, Israel's nuclear ambiguity, allegations of a double standard, and Mordecai Vanunu.
The gravest danger facing America and the world is outlaw regimes that seek and possess nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons.
Yet again, the shutters have come down on this story. Our interview with Undersecretary for Defense Douglas Feith was scheduled for 4 o'clock, somewhere in this vast complex of the Pentagon behind me. Yet at the last minute, we've heard the interviews cancelled. Questions about Israel, it appears, are strictly off limits. We'd received this email from the Pentagon.
Ladies, we showed Mr. Feith the list of topics for the BBC interview. He is not willing to answer any of the questions you listed. Respectfully request you resubmit your questions as soon as possible this morning. Questions directed toward the current Iraqi situation.
On February the 19th, Vanunu was again refused parole. He remains in Ashkelon prison. Horev has let it be known he intends never to let Mordecai Vanunu leave Israel. You can comment on tonight's programme by visiting our website at www.bbc.co.uk/correspondent. Next on Correspondent, America's child soldiers, how the military are taking over America's schools. That's next Sunday at 6:45.